The lunch hour was in full swing at the bustling downtown restaurant, La Bella Vita. Known for its exquisite cuisine and elegant atmosphere, the establishment was a melting pot of cultures and faces. Business people, tourists, and locals alike gathered under its chandeliers, savoring the aroma of freshly baked bread and simmering sauces. In the midst of the lunchtime frenzy, one waitress moved purposefully through the crowd, her apron tied neatly around her waist and a forced smile on her face. Her name was Janine, and while she appeared professional to most, there was an undercurrent to her demeanor, a quiet rigidity that only revealed itself in particular moments. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. At a table near the corner of the room, a man sat alone, quietly surveying the menu. His name was Marcus, a tall, charismatic individual with an aura of quiet confidence. Dressed sharply in a tailored suit, he appeared to be an accomplished professional. Marcus had a habit of dining alone, enjoying his meals in peace while observing the world around him. However, today, something felt off. Janine approached his table, her steps deliberate and her expression colder than the warmth she had shown other patrons. She hesitated before addressing him, her tone clipped and lacking the usual hospitality she offered. "Can I help you?" she asked, barely looking at Marcus as her pen hovered over her notepad. Marcus smiled politely. "Yes, I'd like to start with the house salad and then the seafood linguine. Oh, and a glass of your Merlot, please." Janine's lips tightened. She didn't jot down his order. Instead, she glanced around the room, as though hoping another staff member might come to handle the table. When no one did, she crossed her arms and said, "Are you sure you're in the right place? We're not exactly a casual establishment." Marcus raised an eyebrow, his smile unwavering. "I'm quite sure I'm in the right place. I've dined here several times before." Her gaze lingered on him, scrutinizing. Marcus's calm demeanor only seemed to irritate her further. "Well, we have a strict policy about maintaining a certain standard," she said, her voice tinged with condescension. "Perhaps a different restaurant might be more appropriate for you." The room seemed to grow quieter, though the clinking of glasses and murmur of conversations continued. Marcus remained composed, though his expression shifted slightly, a flicker of disbelief mixed with disappointment. He leaned back in his chair, studying her as she stood rigidly before him. "And what exactly do you mean by that?" Marcus asked evenly, his voice low but firm. Janine's cheeks flushed. She glanced nervously around as though afraid someone might overhear. "I'm just saying, we cater to a certain clientele. You might feel more comfortable elsewhere." It was a thinly veiled insult, but Marcus caught its full weight. Still, he didn't lose his composure. Instead, he gave her a long, measured look before speaking again. "I'm here to enjoy a meal, just like everyone else. Are you going to take my order, or should I speak to someone else?" Janine hesitated, her discomfort now palpable. Before she could respond, a commotion at the front of the restaurant drew their attention. A group of servers had gathered near the entrance, whispering and pointing toward the man now stepping inside. He was a tall, older gentleman with a commanding presence. Dressed in a sharp blazer, he exuded authority and confidence. His name was Mr. Caldwell, the restaurant's general manager and a longtime friend of Marcus. As he entered, his eyes scanned the room until they landed on Marcus. His face lit up with recognition. "Marcus!" Mr. Caldwell called out warmly, striding toward the table with an outstretched hand. "Good to see you, my friend." The shift in the atmosphere was immediate. Heads turned, and conversations paused. Janine froze in place, her eyes wide as she watched her boss greet the man she had just insulted. Marcus stood, clasping Mr. Caldwell's hand in a firm shake. "Good to see you too," Marcus replied, his tone still measured but carrying an edge of amusement. Mr. Caldwell turned to Janine, noticing her stiff posture and uneasy expression. "Janine, I see you've already met the owner of La Bella Vita." The color drained from Janine's face. "Oh, owner!" she stammered, her voice barely audible. "Yes," Mr. Caldwell said, oblivious to her discomfort. "Marcus owns the place. He's the visionary behind the entire concept. Every detail from the menu to the decor was his idea. Isn't that right, Marcus?" Marcus smiled, though his eyes held a glint of something sharper. "That's correct. I'm very hands-on with my businesses." Janine's mind raced as she tried to process what she had just learned. She felt a sinking sensation in her stomach as the weight of her actions settled over her. Her earlier disdain and prejudice had been directed not at an unassuming customer, but at the man responsible for her job. I didn't realize, she began, her voice faltering. Marcus held up a hand, silencing her. No need to explain, he said, his tone cool. But I would like to have a word with you privately. Mr. Caldwell, do you mind? Mr. Caldwell looked between them, a hint of confusion crossing his face. Of course not. Let's step into the office. The three of them made their way to the back of the restaurant, leaving the dining room abuzz with whispers and speculation. Inside the office, Marcus turned to face Janine, his expression unreadable. I want to hear it from you, Marcus said, his voice calm but firm. Why did you refuse to serve me? Janine wrung her hands nervously, her earlier arrogance now replaced with visible remorse. I made an assumption. It was wrong of me, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Marcus crossed his arms, his gaze unflinching. An assumption based on what? My appearance? The color of my skin? She nodded reluctantly, her face crimson with shame. I thought you might not fit in here. I didn't realize that I owned the place? Marcus finished for her. And if I didn't, would that have made your behavior acceptable? Janine's eyes filled with tears. No, it wouldn't have. I was wrong. I'm so sorry. Mr. Caldwell stood silently in the corner, clearly uncomfortable but unwilling to intervene. Marcus took a deep breath, his posture relaxing slightly. I believe in giving people second chances, Marcus said finally. But this is a lesson you need to take to heart. This restaurant was built to bring people together, not to create divisions. If you can't embody that philosophy, this isn't the place for you. Janine nodded quickly, her voice trembling as she said, I understand. I'll do better, I promise. Marcus studied her for a moment before nodding. I hope you mean that, because the next time something like this happens, there won't be a conversation. With that, the meeting was over. Janine returned to her duties, visibly shaken but determined to prove herself. Marcus, meanwhile, resumed his seat in the dining room, where his meal was promptly served by a different waitress. As he enjoyed his linguine, he couldn't help but reflect on the incident. Moments like these reminded him why he had built La Bella Vita in the first place. It wasn't just about the food or the ambiance. It was about creating a space where everyone could feel welcome, regardless of their background or appearance. Today's encounter had been a stark reminder that there was still work to be done. As Marcus finished his meal and prepared to leave, several staff members approached him, offering warm greetings and expressing their admiration for the restaurant. The incident with Janine seemed to have sparked a renewed commitment among the team to uphold the values Marcus held dear. By the time Marcus stepped outside, the sun was shining brightly, casting a golden glow over the city streets. He felt a sense of hope. Change was possible, and it often began with small moments that challenged assumptions, shattered stereotypes, and reminded everyone of the power of respect and understanding. As Marcus walked away, he couldn't help but smile. La Bella Vita was more than a restaurant. It was a vision of a better world, one meal at a time. Marcus strolled down the bustling city streets, his thoughts still lingering on the earlier incident at La Bella Vita. Despite the smooth resolution, the sting of Janine's prejudice gnawed at him. It wasn't the first time he'd encountered such behavior, but the fact that it had happened in his own establishment left a bitter taste in his mouth. For a moment, he considered the journey that had led him to this point. Years ago, Marcus hadn't been the confident entrepreneur people saw today. Born and raised in a modest neighborhood, his path to success had been paved with challenges. As a young boy, he had watched his mother, a talented home cook, transform simple ingredients into extraordinary meals. Those experiences ignited his passion for food and hospitality, a passion that carried him through culinary school and eventually led him to open La Bella Vita. The restaurant was meant to be more than just a place to eat. It was a beacon of inclusivity and warmth, a place where strangers could come together over shared plates and leave as friends. It was disheartening to see that even in such a space, prejudice could creep in like a shadow. Still, Marcus believed in the power of education and second chances. He hoped Janine would take this as an opportunity to grow, but her actions had also reminded him that the fight for equality was ongoing. As he walked, Marcus found himself in a nearby park. The sound of children laughing and playing mingled with the chirping of birds. It was a welcome distraction, a reminder of the simple joys of life. He sat on a bench watching the world go by, his mind wandering to the next steps he needed to take. The restaurant was thriving, but incidents like today's highlighted the importance of ongoing training and communication with his staff. La Bella Vita's success depended not only on its food and service, but on its ability to foster an environment where everyone felt valued. Marcus resolved to introduce a series of workshops focused on diversity and inclusion, ensuring that every team member understood the values the restaurant stood for. Later that evening, Marcus returned to the restaurant for a private meeting with his management team. Gathered in the cozy upstairs office, they listened intently as he recounted the incident with Janine, careful not to reveal too many personal details to protect her dignity. "We're doing well as a business," Marcus began, his tone measured. "But success isn't just about numbers. It's about the kind of experience we offer our guests. Today, something happened that reminded me we still have work to do in ensuring that every person who walks through our doors feels welcome." The room was silent as his words sank in. Mr. Caldwell, ever the steady presence, nodded in agreement. "We've always prided ourselves on our reputation, but it's clear we need to reinforce those values. What do you have in mind?" Marcus leaned forward, his hands clasped. "I want to introduce a comprehensive training program. It'll focus on empathy, cultural awareness, and how to address biases. These sessions will be mandatory for everyone, from servers to management. We can also bring in speakers, experts who can share their insights and help us grow as a team." One of the younger managers, Maria, raised her hand hesitantly. "I think that's a great idea, Marcus. But what if some staff members resist? You know, people can get defensive when it comes to topics like this." Marcus smiled. "That's a valid concern, Maria, but I believe that the way we approach it will make all the difference. This isn't about shaming anyone. It's about opening minds and fostering understanding. We'll make it clear that these sessions are an investment in our team, not a punishment." The team agreed, and plans for the training sessions began to take shape. Over the next few weeks, Marcus worked tirelessly to organize the program, collaborating with local educators and community leaders to ensure it was impactful. Flyers went up in the staff break room, and an air of curiosity spread among the employees. Meanwhile, Janine's demeanor had shifted significantly since the day of the incident. She was quieter, more introspective, and seemed genuinely eager to make amends. She took extra care with her tables, going out of her way to greet customers warmly and check on their needs. Marcus noticed the change and hoped it signaled a genuine transformation. Simone was a charismatic speaker with a talent for turning complex topics into relatable stories. She began by sharing her own experiences with discrimination and how they had shaped her perspective. The staff listened intently, many nodding along as her words resonated with them. "Bias isn't always loud and obvious," Simone explained, her voice steady. "Sometimes it's subtle. It shows up in the way we treat people differently without realizing it. The key is to recognize those moments and actively work to do better." She then led the group through a series of interactive exercises designed to help them identify and challenge their own biases. Some of the activities were lighthearted, prompting laughter and camaraderie, while others were more introspective, encouraging participants to reflect on their own assumptions and experiences. Over the following weeks, the training sessions continued, each one building on the lessons of the last. Marcus made it a point to participate in every session, leading by example and showing his team that the work they were doing mattered. Slowly but surely, a cultural shift began to take hold within the restaurant. Staff members became more mindful of their interactions, not just with customers, but with each other. The atmosphere grew warmer, more welcoming, a true reflection of the vision Marcus had always had for La Bella Vita. One afternoon, Janine approached Marcus as he reviewed some paperwork in his office. She stood hesitantly in the doorway, clutching a small notebook. "Marcus," she began, her voice tentative. "Do you have a moment?" He looked up and smiled. "Of course, come in." She stepped inside, taking a seat across from him. "I wanted to thank you," she said, her cheeks flushed, "for giving me another chance. Those training sessions, they've been eye-opening. I've realized how much I still have to learn." Marcus nodded, his expression encouraging. "I'm glad to hear that, Janine. Growth isn't always easy, but it's worth it." She hesitated for a moment before continuing. "I also wanted to apologize again. Not just for what happened that day, but for the way I've been carrying myself in general. I see now how my attitude might have affected not just our guests, but my coworkers too." Marcus leaned forward, resting his hands on the desk. "Acknowledging that is a big step, Janine. And I hope you'll keep pushing yourself to grow. It's a journey, not a destination." Her eyes glistened with emotion as she nodded. "Thank you, I won't let you down." As she left the office, Marcus felt a sense of satisfaction. It wasn't often that he saw such a profound transformation in someone, but moments like these reminded him why he believed so strongly in the power of second chances. La Bella Vita continued to thrive, its reputation growing not just for its food, but for its welcoming atmosphere. Customers frequently commented on the warmth of the staff, and many became regulars, drawn by the sense of community the restaurant exuded. Marcus knew there was still work to be done. There always would be. But he felt confident that they were moving in the right direction. One evening, as the restaurant buzzed with activity, Marcus stood near the entrance, watching his team in action. He saw Janine expertly balancing trays of food, her smile genuine as she interacted with a diverse group of diners. He saw Maria chatting with a couple at the bar, her laughter ringing out above the hum of conversation. He saw Mr. Caldwell overseeing the floor, his calm presence ensuring everything ran smoothly. It was a sight that filled Marcus with pride. La Bella Vita had become more than just a business. It was a reflection of the values he held dear, values of inclusivity, respect, and connection. And while there would always be challenges to face, Marcus knew they would face them together, as a team. As he stepped outside to take a breath of fresh air, the city lights twinkling around him, Marcus felt a deep sense of fulfillment. His journey had been long and difficult, but it had brought him here, to this moment. And for that, he was grateful. The sun was setting over the city, casting warm amber hues across the bustling streets outside La Bella Vita. Marcus stood near the large front windows of the restaurant, his gaze shifting between the glowing skyline and the lively scene within. The energy inside was electric. Waiters weaving between tables with practiced ease, diners laughing over shared meals, and the gentle hum of music blending seamlessly with the clinking of glasses. Every detail seemed to reflect the heart of what he had worked so tirelessly to build. Yet Marcus's thoughts lingered not on the success of the evening, but on the path forward. The training sessions had planted the seeds of a more empathetic culture within the restaurant, but Marcus knew true change required ongoing effort. He envisioned La Bella Vita as more than just a singular entity. He wanted it to be part of a larger movement within the hospitality industry, a model for others to emulate. That evening, after the last table had been cleared and the lights dimmed, Marcus called a late-night meeting with his core management team. Around the intimate conference table, a small group of trusted colleagues gathered, their faces curious but attentive. "I've been thinking about how we can take what we've done here and make a bigger impact," Marcus began, his voice steady yet impassioned. "La Bella Vita has always been about more than food. It's about connection, respect, and breaking down barriers. But what if we could inspire others to embrace those values too?" The team listened intently, their interest piqued. Maria, always quick to offer ideas, leaned forward. "Are you talking about outreach? Maybe partnering with other restaurants or hosting community events?" "Exactly," Marcus said, his eyes lighting up. "We could create a program, something like a mentorship initiative for new restaurant owners who want to foster inclusive environments but don't know where to start. We could share our training materials, host workshops, even invite them to shadow our operations." The room buzzed with excitement as ideas began to flow. Mr. Caldwell suggested reaching out to local culinary schools, offering scholarships to aspiring chefs from underrepresented backgrounds. Another manager proposed hosting quarterly events that celebrated the city's diverse cultures through food and music, drawing the community closer together. As the discussion continued late into the night, Marcus felt a swell of gratitude for his team. Their willingness to dream big and embrace his vision only reaffirmed his belief in the transformative power of shared purpose. The next morning, Marcus began laying the groundwork for this new chapter. He reached out to industry contacts, city leaders, and nonprofit organizations, eager to form alliances that could amplify their efforts. As word spread about La Bella Vita's plans, the restaurant began to attract even more attention, not just for its cuisine, but for its commitment to making a difference. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on a waitress refusing to serve someone based on race? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.